Yeah, good morning. We're going to begin. Baruch Hashem. Just 1 second. Yeah, just wanted to do like a little review with everything what we have learned. So who remembers what? What were we discussing?
Was the Maamar Tfila LeMoshe. Many few questions, and
What
basically,
were the questions? Remember?
first I just want to say it's Tfila Le'ani, Tfilas Ani, Tfilas Ashir, and
Okay.
on above, and then we
Tefillah Moshe. So we discussed tefillah. Let me, as we speak, I'm gonna write it down. Tefillas Ani. Okay. Tefillas Asher. Okay.
And she was the one, above, of course. And
so who remembers the three levels that the Rebbe is pretty much discussing, right? One was what?
Memale, Sovev.
Before that. I remember it was to fulfill Asher Dai Michsari, right? That's the Hebrew word.
Yeah.
Dai Michsara. Michsara meaning, what does this mean?
The basic needs.
Enough. We call it bare minimum, right?
By the way, are you sure it's die and not day? It's
day, whatever. Yeah, it's the same thing. Day, sorry. Yeah, enough for him to survive.
Yeah. No, because
so this is number one, right? Number three, what is that?
You mentioned once it's the difference between, I think, day.
Oh, yeah, and that was Shei Olamim and Chai Olamim.
Yeah. Oh, okay, fine. So let's forget.
Right, that makes sense. Okay. So it's Day Mechsari. The other one was Asher Yichsar Loi, right? Asher Yichsar Loi. And that was what he is lacking, right?
Right.
What he is lacking. Okay, and the third one was Ashiris, right? Ashiris. And then we discussed that what were the other, three levels? You started on in godliness, right?
Yeah, Memal. I mean that's that Tfila Le'ani is the Deimat Saira. And Tfila
Memale, right?
The Asher Yechsar Loi.
Memale was what? Was Memale Kolal. Deimat, right. Okay, and Asher Yichsar Loi, right? What he is lacking, the second level of lack, what was?
Soivev Kol Amen.
Very good. Okay, and Ashiris?
Ashiris is the level above.
Yeah, it's in the Maamar, he refers to Atzmus or Ein Sof.
Okay, Atzmus or Ein Sof, that's the term.
Not sure, is it or Ein Sof or Ein Sof? We're going to call it Atzmus for now. Okay, good. Amazing. So we established this is more or less, right? So it seems that these three levels are guided by the way the revelation of Hashem happens in the perception of the person at the moment, right? If a person is operating on Mamalik Almin level, okay, so now who remembers what a Mamalik Almin has to do with Dai Machsari? How are they similar?
It touches the physical world. It touches the body, touches the base.
In what way? Let's look what's Dai Mechsari? What does this mean? Bare minimum. What is it?
Like food, water, shelter.
Basics, right? Basics?
Yeah.
Basic maintenance of a human being. Now, Memale Kol Almin is also like that. What's Memale Kol Almin? Memale Kol Almin is the light of Hashem that comes in this world and creates, right, enlivens beings based on their needs, right? For example, Memale in a body is when we see that the brain gets certain amount of energy and my nails get a different amount of energy. Why is it? Because every organ has its function, and the chayus distributed based on the need of that organ. And that's what mamali means. Now, soivev, on the other hand, it's pretty much equally revealed throughout. Okay, and for some instances, it's really not revealed, but soivev is the general life force that enlivens the body. There is a little misconception that soivev, doesn't have shaychus to the world. On the contrary, soivev is what stands behind mamala. Mamala has no power to create, right? There are many different mamarim that discuss this idea, but here, for the sake of understanding this Maamar, the Rebbe makes a very clear statement that although soivev is an exceptionally lofty level, it still has shaykhus to the world, right? This is soivev kol almin, meaning it's the light that soivev that surrounds all worlds, meaning it has shaykhus to the world. It has already an intention for the worlds. This is very important. Now, what's atzmos, b'ezrat Hashem, we'll try to grasp as much as we can. So, I'm sorry. Just want to add the number of levels. Okay, so this is level number 3. This is level we're going down up. Number 2, and this is level number 1. So we have that clarity. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna share the Maamar.
By the way,
And
the
this
questions we didn't review, but maybe.
right. So what were the main questions? Remember, the main question of the Maamar, Tfila l'Moshe.
How come Tfila le'ani? He was actually had. No, Moshe
is Usher. Remember, Moshe is Usher. Right. So what's wrong to say Tfila l'Moshe? Not wrong, but what's strange about it?
That
because who is Usher? What's the gather of Usher? What?
He has everything. So what is he davening? And when he davening, but for somebody else, is feeling that the master that the other person has. So it is a tefillah le'ani lichora. Right. Why is it considered tefillah le'ashir? Exactly. So basically, we have a problem here. Tefillah l'Moshe, meaning Moshe is davening for something. So if he is davening for something, that means he has a need to daven for. If he has a need to daven for, he is automatically no longer Usher. Because what's the gather of Usher? Who remembers? What's Usher? Who is Usher? The other two guys, they have machzor. They have a lack in one area or the other. It doesn't matter what it is. He's a lack. He's missing, I don't know, a limousine. Okay? The second level. Right? Even Sus Lirchov Olav, right? Eved Loretz Lufanov is missing that. Doesn't matter what he's missing. He has, I don't know,
billions of dollars, but he's missing, number 300. He's still in a state of lack. Okay.
So
What
didn't
was together?
we come to the conclusion that Usher was Hasameach Bechelko?
No,
Very simple in Pirkei Avos, no?
no, not here. It's a different. The Rebbe is bringing out different idea here. The Rebbe is bringing out that Usher, there's a gather. It's called Ribui Sefa. He's in the state of mashpia, and I think maybe we should add that in our worksheet here. 1 second. Right? He is in a state of right? If you remember, the Rebbe spoke over there that Ashiris is Ribui Shefa. Right? He has a Ribui Shefa. That's the word. Ribui Shefa. What do you mean Ribui Shefa? Abundance. Abundance of flow. Okay, and he's in the state of mashpia. Yeah, because he's the one who gives because he has so much. Now, the other two level, Gai Machsari and Asher Yichsar Lai, they are Makablim. They might have a lot. The guy number 2, Asher Yichsar Lai, he might have a lot, but he's not considered to be Asher just because he has a lot. The fact that he receives this from others and he's not self-generating his wealth, whatever that means. I don't know if there's anybody could be in that gather to self-generate their own wealth. Okay, everybody is in the state of receiving it from another. If he receives from another, he's not usher. He's in the state of we call mekabel, right? Okay, and Ashir's is ribu shefa, and he's in the state of a mashpia. Okay, he doesn't need. Now, it's very interesting, but those who are coming from Shari Yichud group, we were learning about a concept of hiyuli, right? If you remember, the concept of koach hamaskil, the concept of that somebody could be self-generating their own knowledge. And for us, sometimes it's very hard to understand because we haven't tapped into these parts of our consciousness, and we lack that awareness that we have that. Right, that we have our own koach hamaskil that could generate ideas, our own ideas, right? Although we, on a constant basis, have experience with our koach hamaskil, but, still there's a lack of confidence, lack of belief, or something else where we are looking for our own solutions outside of us, right? It's a fact. Most people in this world, that's what they do. They have an issue, they go to therapists, they go to consultant, they go to outside of themselves, outside resources, right? And not really tapping into the inner wealth, into what already they possessed. It's interesting. It's a very interesting story of the Rebbe that a couple of months I came across. I don't remember names, but there was one guy who had a particular problem. And let's say we're going to call him, I don't know, Moshe from Boston. I really don't know what's his name. I have no idea where he's coming from. But let's imagine it's Moshe, whatever, Ploini Almoini from Boston. And he basically ends up going to, he was not a Lubavitcher guy, and but he was from, and everybody suggested him, go to the Lubavitcher Rebbe for this particular issue. And he was avoiding it. He didn't want to go, and na. Long story short, he decides, okay, I'll go. So he picks up the phone. He calls the Rebbe's office, and I believe Rabbi Chodakov answered the phone, and he says, okay, I have this question, and he didn't say his name. Okay, he said, I have this particular question, and he thought, like, I'm not going to say my name, and why should I say my name? If the Rebbe is so great, he should figure out what my issue is, if what everybody else is claiming who he is, it's true. And he basically asks the question. Rabbi Chadikov also didn't ask his name for whatever reason. he hears how Rabbi Chodakov asks, the Rebbe that question that he had. And the Rebbe answers him, and go and ask Ploini Almani from Boston. The guy was very surprised. He's like, so that's what Rabbi Chodakov tells him, go and ask this and this from Boston. He says, well, this is me. You understand? The funny part of it? It's like, it's me. I am this Ploini Almani from Boston. And Rabbi Chodakov says, this is what the Rebbe said, and that's basically it. So now Rabbi Chodakov asks again the Rebbe, well, that's him. And the Rebbe repeats, he should ask him. So the bottom line, I don't know exactly how the story ended, but the bottom line is that the Rebbe literally gave him guidance that he should ask himself. And this fellow took it very close to heart, because when he started reflecting on whatever issues he might have had and actually asking himself, how would he resolve this particular situation, this particular issue, interestingly came out with an amazing ideas. So this is pretty much along where the Rebbe is, the Rebbe is guiding this particular Maamar. So this is what we know, right? Tfila of Moshe's Usher. But then he asks a fundamental question. He says, you know what? Maybe he was asking, not maybe, for surely he's asking for who? Who is Moshe Rabbeinu asking for? He's asking for Bnei Israel, for Knesset Israel. Says, okay. He's asking for Knesset Israel. So that's not asking for him, right? He's maybe asking for somebody else. So if he's asking for somebody else, so that's not like he's asking for himself. He is not lacking. It's somebody else is lacking. But then the Rebbe says, well, if Moshe Rabbeinu comes from, Das is feeling, Das is really empathizing, and everything else that comes, that Das brings in. So the problem becomes like his problem. Okay, if the problem becomes like his problem, what happens? He's automatically off the level of Asherus. He's no longer Asher. It doesn't matter whose lack it is, his or somebody else's. The fact that he experiences lack, even of his fellow, automatically puts him out of the state of Asherus. But the Rebbe says, but this is not so. Truly, he remains Asher. This is where we need to figure out, and this is where the Maamar takes us. Is like, despite who he davens for, Tfila Moshe is such an interesting tefillah that he remains in the state of Asherus. He doesn't change his status. Any questions up until now? No, we all good?
Is that because it's Moshe Rabbeinu?
Yeah, because Moshe Rabbeinu is operates on a particular level where his tefillah does not bring him to the state of ani, to the state of lack. Why? We're going to figure out. Rabbi is going to answer this question.
Also, it has to do with Yutas Kislev, somehow with a new way of working. But
exactly. Yes. The Rebbe established that it's it's a work of Geula. So basically what the Rebbe established in the beginning, thank you for pointing that out, that this work is the work that was established, not established, revealed. And this is the work of the Geula. Operate on these levels. So it's interesting that the Rebbe is bringing it out all the way from Tafshin Chavtes, when the Frierdiker Rebbe was turning 90. And then when he himself was turning 90 in Tafshin Nun Aleph, the Rebbe gave this Maamar again. And obviously the Rebbe is encouraging Chassidim to shift to these levels of operation. I'm not sure if we did hay. Did we do hay? Anybody remembers? No, we didn't do hay. I think we reached till the hay. Okay. So now, what the Rebbe is going to do now is that the Rebbe is going to, everything what we knew from Chassidus about 3 levels, he's going to organize them in this table that we are creating. So so far we put in the Mamalakol Alamin, Sov Kolamin and Atzmos, right, corresponding to these 2 levels of Lak and Ashiris. And now the Rebbe is taking us to, dipping the Rochav, right, digging the Rochav, to expanding that. It actually goes a little bit beyond. And many concepts that we already know, all of a sudden will fit into these 3 categories. Let me just annotate. Okay, so we are right here. Is it big enough for you guys? Okay. Behina achiluk, right? And the difference between dai michsarei v'asher yichsar loi. Benagia la'ani kipshutei. So now the Rebbe is discussing these 2 levels, right, of dai michsarei and asher yichsar loi, concerning to the person who's lacking, to the ani. It's not that the flow that comes to the one asher yichsar loi, that it's a bigger shefa, that he has sus lirchav alav ve'evet lorus lefanav, to the point that he has a horse riding to ride on, and the evet that runs in front of him. Elagam she'inyan asher yichsar loi hu dafka lemisha darkoi b'chach. And this is the key word, that this idea that asher yichsar loi, it's only for the one who was used to it, right? That had a way like that. Listen, our community is not obligated to buy a limousine for everybody. It's only when he had a limousine and he lost his wealth, community should support him that he regains the same level of wealth. But if he never had that level of wealth, community is not obligated to get him. Well, and according to what is known, shekol ha'inyanim shabatayra ham betachlis adiyu, that all ideas in Torah are very, very precise. Tzarich lamar, we need to say, shahadimayin the shnei hagiluyim the mamala v'soivev, right? And we must say that this a similar idea of these 2 revelations of mamala and soivev, l'shnei inyanim the dai michsarei v'asher yichsar loi, urak mipnei shegiluy hasovev ugiluy nale yosef, right? So, meaning the only way how we can compare the soivev and mamale to these 2 levels of lack, right, is because the giluy of the soivev is a giluy which is much, much greater. Okay, so what does this mean? It's not, I'm sorry, it's not only because the giluy of soivev is much greater. It's not, it's more than that. Elagam lefi sha'inyan the miluy achisoren shalidei giluy hasoivev udavka lemisha darka b'cha. It's a person who is operating on the level of soivev, used to operate on the level of soivev. He's used to it. That's why he has an ability to access this light. Right? We understand, right? Meaning the same way how it is in the person who we sustaining enough for him to gain his level of what he used to have. This is exactly how it is in a relationship of Mamal and Soivev. That's why the Rebbe says that's why everything in the Torah is a very meduyak. So now, who in this world has access to be used to operating on the level of Soivev? It's a very lofty level. Right? There is an explanation for this. Alpi Mashikosu b'Maamar, right? That there are 3 levels of the Ava, 3 levels of love that we have, right? And we say that in Shema every day. Level number 1 is B'chol levavecha, with all your heart. B'chol nafshecha, with all your soul. B'chol ma'adecha, with all your might. Okay? Ham Gimel Madregas Hanal. These are the three levels that we discussed above. Right? So now let's see which one fits what. Ha'ava b'chol levavecha. Hi b'bchinas mamalakol almin. Like the love with all your heart, it corresponds to the level of mamalakol almin. Why? Because that's mainly the ava b'chol levavecha really corresponds to the love of the animal soul. Why is it? The alideshi is bainen, right? How does this love with all your heart is being born? Because the person is misbainen, he does his bainanus, is contemplating. What is he contemplating on? Sha'achayus shekol davar hu elokus. He's contemplating how truly the life force of everything what he sees is elokus, is godliness. What happens when he contemplates on every detail of the world? Okay, and comes to realizations that the life force for that being, for that thing, it's truly godliness. He's going to come to love with all his heart, right? And what Rashi says, with his two inclinations, right? Meaning even the Nefesh Bahamis, even the animal soul, is going to come to realize that there's a God in the world and that the God ultimately is the life force for everything behind. Okay? The Kivan Shahachayus Shababchinas Mamalakol Almin, right? That he realizes that the life force that's coming from the aspect of Mamalakol Almin, Hu Malubash Bahanivroim Bepnimiyusam, it's enclosed in the creation, in the inner aspect, Lachain, therefore, Alideha is Boinanus, Nirgashachayus, through his Boinanus, he's going to feel that life force. Gam benefesh behemis, even the animal soul is going to feel that. Okay. Va'ava the b'chol nafshecha. Now that's we established is b'chol levavecha, is through contemplating on Mamalekol Almin, a person comes realizing that the chayus, the inner life force of everything in this world is truly God. Even the animal soul is going to realize. Okay? Va'ava the b'chol nafshecha. What is the ava b'chol nafshecha? Right? The love with your whole soul. Huba bechinas sovev kol almin. It corresponds to the level of sovev kol almin. The alidei ha'izboinanus, that through the hizboinanus, sha'achayus eloki shemitlabesh ba'olamais hu ha'ara bilvad. See, it's a little bit different. This is boinanus is a little bit different. That he's misboinen, that the chayus, it's already a second level of his boinanus. He's misboinen that the chayus, the godly life, okay, that's enclosed in the world, it's only a reflection. Okay? Shebein aroch legabe atzmos or in sof, so that completely improportionate to the essence of Or Ein Sof, okay, completely disproportionate. Nirgish etzla hafla b'Or Ein Sof. He feels an awe in when he starts contemplating about Or Ein Sof. You see, it's exactly the opposite. He doesn't feel. He is in a state of awe, right? So what happens? And through this is going to come to love with his whole soul. Why? Is havaya, he beoifen the mesiras nefesh. His havaya, his love for Hashem comes in a way of mesiras nefesh. Why? Afilu noitzel es nafsho. He's ready to give up his life. Why? Because sheroitzel lotzes mimetusoi. Because he wants to. Why is he all of a sudden somebody wants to give up his life? But you crazy? No, because a person comes to a realization of how Hashem is so much greater than what he ever was able to perceive before. So at that moment, he wants to be included in Or Ein Sof. Okay, and therefore he wants to leave his Matthias, leave the Matthias that confines him. Okay, and that's mainly experienced by our godly soul, not our animal soul. Okay. And this love only Nefesh Elokis possesses. Okay. Now, what kind of hisbonenus? Because it's a different type of hisbonenus. You see, the first one, it says hisbonenus that contemplates on the Metzius, on something that already exists, and realizes that the godly life force is Hashem. Okay? So it's more hisbonenus in a way of yesh. Okay? Now, the second hisbonenus is in a derech hafla, meaning the person realizes that the godly light, right, the Atzmos or Sof, is so much greater than what the light is enclosed in the Nivraim. It gives him a feeling of wow, awe, right? It's more coming initiated by it brings more of a feeling of the Yira, right? Awe. And that's where the life is coming from, and therefore the person is ready to give up his Metzias. Okay, Nefesh Abahamis is not ready to give up her Metzias, okay, because she comes from a perspective of a yesh. Now, a Nefesh Elokis comes from the perspective of ayin. She does not want to exist. She wants to be included in Or Ein Sof. So truly, the paradigm of Nefesh Abahamis and the paradigm of Nefesh Elokis are exactly opposites. Okay, and the fact that they could coexist in one body, it's one of the, we say mafli alasois, right? It's a huge pele that Hashem does because they can coexist in the perception. Okay. Now, and therefore there's two reasons why Nefesh Elokis has this type of reality. Okay, ki hasaga, that her hasaga, her understanding, is ba'ofen hakar of argasha, right? Through obviously the das. This is the language of das, right? Through her awareness and her feeling. As dafka mevia lahasaga de ava, that dafka, this type of perception, right? Her hasaga, her understanding. Okay, that type of understanding, what brings it to this type of love. Bahafla, right? It's in a state of awe. Comes from the word pele, right? Wonder. The Or Ein Sof of Or Ein Sof. It could be only in the Nefesh Elokis. That it's sourced in the name of Avaya, which is Soivev Kolalmin. Okay? Okay, now it goes back to Nivraim. The Nivraim, they have different perception. Because they're coming from the Shem Elokim, which is Memale, that they are incapable. Even the Malachim, and definitely Nefesh Abahamis, okay, the perception, the understanding, right? The feeling and the awareness in the Havaya, which is Soivev, v'gam lefi ha-nefesh ha-behemit inyana hi Metzias. And also Nefesh ha-behemit, her whole idea is the Metzias. Okay? V'ava de b'chol nafshecha hu sherotze latzes mi-Metziusi. Now, b'chol nafshecha, she wants to leave her Metzias. You see, it's the opposite. Nefesh ha-Bahamis, it's the whole point of her existence is her Metzias, that she feels herself. The Nefesh Elokis is exactly the opposite. She wants to get out of her Metzias, okay, and to be included in Or Ein Sof. Heifech inyan ha-Metzias is the opposite of the idea of the Metzias. Okay, the ava, the b'chol levavcha, the love for the b'chol levavcha, ba'al idea is boinanus, right? B'chol levavcha comes through the isboinanus and awareness that the chayus shebechol davar hu elokus. Okay, that the chayus that in every creation is elokus, shayach lemetziusa shel adam ha'oyev. Right, that's more shayach to his whole existence of the person who loves. There is a person who loves. There is somebody there, and that somebody is very well aware of who he is and the fact that he is doing this process of his boinus. So he's very self-aware. Like the person who loves himself. Okay, he loves the life force. And he wants that this chayus is going to manifest through his whole entire body. It's not a bad thing. It's just different. Okay. And even more so when he understands umargish, when he understands that his whole ikar is the godly life force, who writes about Elokus. He understands that he wants godliness. You see why he wants godliness? He wants godliness because that's what he feels. He feels it himself. He feels that the main life force is godly, and therefore he wants God. So his perception of who he is, okay, comes from within himself about his being self-aware. Okay, now, this is really a very lofty level for our animal soul to understand and get, and, that's pretty much, fulfilling her whole potential, which is great. It's a very lofty level. Okay, and therefore this love, shayachet l'nefesh habahamis, is more shayach to the animal soul. But it's not the b'chol nafshecha. B'chol nafshecha is a different type of love. Shu haratzon latzet mimitzuosei. That this is the desire to get out of his own existence. V'leikalel be'or sof, and to be included in or sof. Urag b'nefesh elokis. It's only in godly soul. Kivan sheshor shei b'shem havaya. Why? Because godly soul comes from Shem Havaya. Soivev. V'gam la'acharei sheyorda lamata. Okay, he chelek mishem havaya. That even when she came down to this world, she's still part of Shem Havaya. Okay, he chelek havaya imay. Right, because there's a part of God with her. V'lachein yesh laharatzin latzet mimitzuusa v'likala b'sharsha sevev. Therefore, she has this desire to get out of her metzius and to be included in its source, which is sevev. Okay, and since it is known, okay, that our soul comes down to this world in order to have an aliyah. So what kind of aliyah is she going to have? She's going to go back to her source. Okay, right? That through her descent, she'll be able to have an ascent to a higher level. Right? What she had from before. Remember, now we're talking about Asher Darkoi B'chach. So Asher Darkoi B'chach is truly corresponds to the Nefesh Elokis. Because Nefesh HaBahamis never had an experience of Sever. Okay? So which part of us has a shaychus to the revelation of Sever is our godly soul. Moving shakavana b'yiridas הנשמה למטה היא שתתעלה למעלה משורשה. ויהי אבא בכל מאודיך, המסירוס נפש, right? That this is the love b'chol מאודיך, right? That she's able to come to a higher level. Okay, this is Mesiras Nefesh, v'akilyoin ba'atzmos or ensof, and that's where she gets what neshama has. Besides helping to elevate the body and the nefesh habahamis and so on and so forth, what is neshama schar? Neshama schar that from Sovev she's able to reach the atzmos through her proper avodah. Okay, that becomes so Mesiras Nefesh, and her inclusions kilyon. Kilyon is when she, evaporates in a way. right? In the atmos of Or Ein Sof, which is Lamalam Gam Misoivev, which is higher than the Soivev. Kival Pizei Yesh Lamar. And through this, we have to say, the Zeshe Milo Achisorin, right? The filling of the lack. That through the revelation of the Soivev, it becomes what he is liking. To the one who had shayach for this, right? That was used to it. This is what neshamas they were used to. Before they descended to this world, which is the Gilui Sof. Okay. So the Rebbe is establishing, okay, three things, right? What three things the Rebbe is establishing? We're going to go back to our page. Okay, and we're gonna continue filling our table. So in terms of love, yeah, what do we have? What type of three loves we were talking about? Mamalakul Almid. Which love would that correspond?
Levavecha.
Very good. B'chol levavcha. Okay. And that's gonna go to nefesh.
Behemoth.
Behemoth,
Both,
right?
both.
Behemoth.
נפש בהמית and נפש אלוקית.
No. B'chol levavcha has
Is
nothing to do
both,
with
no?
nefesh elokis. No.
Not both?
No. He doesn't say the Maamar. He says that's primarily for nefesh habahamis. Primarily for nefesh habahamis. Okay. Now, asher yichser lai. Remember, lai. That's the underlining part here.
סליחה, מילה, I'm sorry. It says over here, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
אהבה בכל לבבך בבחינת, דהיינו, יבוא לאהבת בכל לבבך. So it says, לכן על ידי ההתבוננות נרגש חיות זה גם בנפש הבהמית.
Oh, gam.
So I thought, אהבה בכל לבבך היא בבחינת ממלא כל עלמין. יבוא לאהבה את השם בכל לבביך בשני יצריך. It makes sense, שני יצריך, it's also נפש אלוקית and also נפש בהמית, no?
Right, but here he makes like a clear distinction of the ways of how, two of these souls perceive world, right? Because a nefesh habahamis, she perceives it through metzius, right?
Right.
Metzius. And b'chol nafshecha, right? It's nefesh elokis, right? Elokis, and she wants to do what? Go out of her metzius.
Nullify, to go to Hashem.
Metzius, right? Now, nefesh habahamis, she perceives through yesh, right? Nefesh elokis, she
Ayin.
perceives through ayin. Okay. Remember, what would be the hisboinanus? The conclusion of the hisboinanus of nefesh habahamis is what? Right? Is how chayus elokis, right? The life force is her life. She realizes, like, oh, I am a Matthias, my whole Matthias is a Elokus, therefore I love God. Okay? That's the conclusion that she comes through his Baidanos. Now, Nefesh Elokis has a different type of thought process. That's the key word. It's a thought process. The thought process of Nefesh Elokis is different. It says, this, what we are experiencing, right? All the Nivraim and the Chayes Elokus and the whole entire world, every single detail, it's nothing. It's only ha'ara. It's only a reflection of a true It's like, wow, it's called hafla, right? I'm like, no way, I want to be confined by yesh. I don't want to feel myself. I'm like so mesmerized by this idea, that there's a greater God out there. I want to be connected to it. That's it. I don't care who sustains my life. It's disgusting. It's nothing. That's why the Mesiras Nefesh comes from Nefesh Elokis. Not the Nefesh Bahamas never gets. It's later on. He's going to talk about a different state. But the way it is displayed, it's who always wants to leave its Metzias? It's Nefesh Elokis. Nefesh Bahamas, she's comfortable, Her whole paradigm is the Metzias. Okay, his boinanus is derech hafla.
So Mila, I'm wondering what is the levav? It's plural. And the right and left
hearts,
side of the heart.
right.
It has nothing to do with the nefesh elokis and nefesh
No, it has to
Bahamas.
do. It has to do, but it's true for sure. That's is what Sarah pointed out. It says gam benefesh. There's a
Right,
word gam
right.
there also, obviously, but that's not her main thing. Nefesh elokis, the way the Rebbe, we just read it. It's not her main thing. Her main thing is b'chol nafshecha.
But it sounds like each one has a different starting point.
Yeah,
But
sure.
they both have to include the nefesh elokis.
For sure. No. We just, you see, what the Rebbe does, it's like first you divide, right? You put them in the categories. And then, we need to be a little bit patient where the Rebbe brings all of it into a bigger picture. He'll take us out of this, but right now he wants just to create the structure, the gather, of each. And because let's not forget, there's also Atzmos, right? What is Atzmos? Right? Because you see, why I appreciate this Maamar is that a lot of times we are left only with the gather of Nefesh Elokis, and then that's it. But it's not. There's a higher reality than that. And that's the beauty. Because even Nefesh Elokis, right, is on the level of Asher Yichser Loi, that has an aspect of lack. Okay, it may be not such a big lack, Can you imagine a millionaire is lacking, a 34th limousine, right? You're like, okay, not bad. Just be happy with what you have. There are people who don't have food on the table, right? So this is lack. This is not lack. This is prosperity. The Rebbe says, no. The fact that she could come to a state of any lack, it's a lack. Okay, and Rebbe wants us to bring to the state of Ashiris, Ribu Shefa. It's like it's a different mindset, and the Rebbe doesn't want us to stay on that level of Sof Kolami. The Rebbe is pushing us to this, Atzmos mentality. Literally, like you'll see through this Maamar. It's beautiful. Okay, ready to go?
Mila,
Yeah.
Mr. Borlea, first of all, thank you so much. I every time, I don't know, I guess there's just something about just connecting. I don't know, for me, it's just like even listening to how you speak. So thank you for just coming on and being you. I wanted to just say, I'm not sure if this answers people's like question, why is it b'chal levavcha? But I think Rashi says that it's b'shnei yitzracha, which is your good inclination and your evil inclination, which are both, at least in my understanding, they're both lower levels of functioning. But one is that we have an inclination to do good, which is also coming from the nefesh avihamis, whether it's, like it has a value for making the world a better place. I think that's like coming from the Matthias that you see, you could have an impact on the world. That's one part of your Yetzer. And the other part is, you know, Matthias of wanting to, you know, just destroy and just have everything for yourself or whatever else it is. But in my understanding, that the both is actually that the Nefesh Behamis itself has a negative aspect and a positive, you know, both against
No, I'll tell you what it is. The Rebbe is bringing this to us, you know, not to delve into the differences between Nefesh Elokis, Nefesh Bahamas perspectives. That is a whole Kuntres Spilus. If anybody wants to really delve into this whole, you know, differences and how they different and on all levels of the soul, blah, 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 and all that. Kuntres Spilus is the address. If you have like another year to delve into Chassidus, it's a long Kuntres. It's beautiful. Reb Hillel Parasha gives 2 biurim. They're fascinating. So please, that's not, the Rebbe takes us to a different place. Yeah, I mean, he's mentioning these things to organize a thought process. The Rebbe is taking us to a different place. So we're not gonna, you know, kind of, you know, get hooked on the differences of this. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, let's go. Okay. Okay, Vav. Okay, Tzarich lahavin. We need to understand. The lefi biur hanal, that according to the explanation above. Okay. Ze shegilui hasovev hu b'chol milui hachisarin. Right, the revelation of the sovev is to fulfill all the lacks. Hu davka benagel in the shamis. It's specifically for the godly souls. Ashenkin benagel in Yivraim. To the creations, it's not like that. Ein shayach loymar lichayra. Shegilui hasovev hu milui hachisarin. We can't really say lichayra. You know, the key word here is lichayra, seemingly, right? And we know usually what the Rebbe means is that whenever the Rebbe says lichayra, that's like a logical conclusion, but truly it's something different. Right? That the gilui of the sovev, right, is not shayach to the milui hachisaron of the nivraim. Kivan she'ein darkam b'chach. And what's the reasoning behind it? Because they're not used to it. What's nivraim has to do to sovev? Big deal. You never lived on sovev level, so why you won your $35 million? Okay. Okay. The mizeh shemevi b'Maamar, but because what he brings in the Maamar,
Sorry, Mila, can you explain the first 3 lines again? I find
Sure.
it a bit difficult to understand.
Okay, let's establish. Remember, he said that Asher Yichser Loi is only Asher Darkei B'chach, right? We don't just give, you know, a horse to anybody to ride. It's only if you had a horse before, we're going to give you back the horse. Not back. We didn't take your horse. We're going to ride you to the level of the horse and to the level of this Eved running in front of you. Okay. So now, which level is this? Asher Yichser Loi, right? That he is lacking, which is Sovev Kol Amin, which is the Ava B'chol Nafshecha, which is Nefesh Elokis. That's the whole level. Okay, amazing. So now, seemingly, if this is what we established, right, the logic behind it, seemingly, the Sovev has no shaychus to the Nivraim, because Nivraim never had a revelation of Sovev. They never had Asher Darkei B'chach. They never had this. So what the Taina?
It's only the Nefesh Elokit that had that experience?
For sure.
Okay.
She's coming from there. She's coming from Sovev. We just established that her source is
Right,
Havaya.
right.
Havaya is Sovev. Okay, so what Nefesh Bahamas or any other Nivra for that fact has to do with this level? That seems that they have no shaykhs to it, right? That's what he means, right? מה שאין כן בנוגע לנבראים, אין שייך לומר לכאורה שגילוי הסבב הוא מילוי החיסורי. Right? Because they have a different type of chisaron. They have to put bread on a table and, you know, clothing and stuff like that. They don't need to get a sus lirkov alav ve'eved loros lefanov. Kivan she'ein darchem b'chach. They don't remember that, meaning they never had that. ומזה שמביא במאמר, שם רז"ל, מה שהעולם חסר מנוחה, right? And what he brings from Maamar Razal, right? That Haya olam chaser menucha, that the world was lacking menucha. Why the world was lacking menucha? World not supposed to have any menucha to begin with. Asher darko b'chach, not darko b'chach, right? Muvan, it is understood that that all the time that we do not have the revelation of the Sovev, which is menucha, what is the revelation of the tranquility? It's also a chisaron in the world. So the Rebbe basically just established a very nice table, which we just created. And then he crashes it a little bit. Right? It's very often done like that. Why? Because we can cement godliness into a very nice table. Okay. It's in a way breaks our moch even, right? It breaks our like the cement perception on things. We might think like, oh, that's it. I created a beautiful what do you call it? Visual representations of what we're learning. I feel good. I understood the Maamar. Truly not. Okay. Doesn't mean that we don't need to create nice, beautiful, tables, but we also need to understand that, there's a greater way of thinking than what we just put together. Okay. The Rebbe says like, no, but there is a saying about that there is something which is called menucha. And the minute that the world doesn't have menucha, it's in a state of lack. We all know what this means, no menucha, right? Menucha is a phenomenal ability to just pause, because we just like running around doing things, one things after no. And even though we're accomplishing, but then there's no sense of accomplishment. Okay? The sense of accomplishment is that when we could take a step back and have like a little nachas of what we have accomplished. Right? And that's the state of manuch, the state of tranquility, where we could just take a deep breath and, pause. Okay? Yesh loymar, the kivan she'in hakavana, the brias haneshama lamatahi, v'yiridas haneshama lamatahi, right? That the whole kavana of why the neshama came down to this world, lo b'shvil aliyah the neshama. It's not only b'shvil that the neshama is going to go rise. Ela b'chdei letaken v'la'alos es olam. Okay, so meaning, neshama didn't come just to have a higher level of awareness after she departs, but she also came to fix the world and to elevate it. Through the love, the b'chol nafshecha, okay, shel neshama is k'mo sheyordi lamata ba'olam, okay, tit'ale ha'olam lemadrega nalis yosef. The world is going to have a higher perception, because you see, what nefesh elokis really adds to the table. The nefesh elokis adds to the table. You know what? There's a greater reality out there. Don't just be fixed by nefesh Bahamas perception. This is the Matthias, this is the world, Elokim, and blah blah blah. No. Nefesh elokis says, you know what? There's a Havaya out there. Havaya Elokeinu. Okay, so don't just make an idol out of Elokim. No, the chayus is much greater. Isn't what that the Hisbonenus conclusion of Nefesh Elokis is? It says no. You concluded that every nivra has chayus elokus. Amazing. There's a greater reality. So Nefesh Elokis truly what is pushing us to go into the unknown, to go deeper. Okay. And it's a phenomenal, because if we was going to stay from a yesh perspective, we're going to be like animals, right? We say every day in the morning, Moiser ha'adam mina behema ayin, right? And the difference between a human being from an animal is ayin, which is truly misnagdim translated. There's no difference between human and animals. No, the Hasidic explanation is that the difference between a human and an animal, that humans are able to enter into a state of ayin. Okay, they're able to leave the state of their own metzias, okay, and welcome something greater than who they are. Okay, and that's a beautiful thing, because it's going to be exceptionally boring to live like an animal. Right? This is my metzias. This is what I am. This is who I am, and don't bother me. Okay. Okay. Right? The world is able to rise up to a higher level. Than what it is on its own. Right? And it has an ability to have shaykhus to the level of soivev. As we say, Havaya Elokeinu. Havaya is our God. Why do we want? What's a Shema? What's the whole purpose of Shema? Shema is establishing that our Elokim is Havaya. Okay, that we should not be like limited by the state of Elokim, of Mamala Kulalmi. V'aderech hashaychus the neshama is the soivev, right? The same way how the neshamas have shaychus to the soivev. V'at Kishe'ena meir gilu yasevev, right? Until Kishe'ena meir gilu yasevev ha'olam uchaser. It comes, yeah, I have this persistent kid who wants my attention. Just give me a minute, please. Okay. Right? So to the point that when there is no revelation of Sevev, right? Ha'olam uchaser, right? The world is in a state of yeah, sorry about that. So it basically comes to a point that even the world, by not having the menucha, okay, is unable to be, to be raised on the level of Sevet. And therefore, it's ha'olam hu chaser, right? The world is in a state of lack. Okay? Any questions on that?
So is it depends on one person's work? Is it what when they say the Olam Chaser after got used to the fact, how does it work? Like it's everybody's world is after one time you had this it's how does it
Yeah, I'm not understanding your question.
No, I'm trying to understand. We're talking about the world. So this is something that happens after a work of many Jewish people, that the world is elevated to a higher darga. And then when it be shayach to a soivev, so the world is missing, like we're missing menucha. No, I'm just trying to understand that is it something that happens after work for many Jewish people, or it's everybody's single world, or it's not talking yet about avoida lemaise.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely culminating work. Yeah, just 1 second. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Judith, I'm thinking about your question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you look at the lines over here, it's unbelievable. It's like thinking this is what's happening now. It says, על ידי אהבה בכל נפשך של הנשמות כמו שירדו למטה בעולם. We see that this is what happened in the last year. אהבה בכל נפשך of so many people, of the מסירות נפש. I'm just wondering if this is,
Yeah, it's probably like she started to say culminating, and
yeah.
more we approaching Mashiach, the word the word becoming a higher madrega. I would say that the Chassidim Arishonim probably were much able to elevate the world, but you know what? Not always we're getting the answer. Maybe I don't want to stop the flow of the Maamar, but I think it's probably each one gives our part, and I think definitely we feel that the changing in the world, especially the last year. I
Yeah.
definitely feel
Yeah.
the world.
Experience it anymore.
The world is crying, wanted a soivev. Well, the Rebbe said we finished all the work. I don't know. We don't have answers to all those things.
It's just such a strong 3 lines, על ידי אהבה בכל נפשך, של הנשמות כמו שירדו למטה בעולם, מתעלה העולם למדרגה נעלית, מכמו שהוא מצד עצמו, שנעשה שייך לדרגה דסובב. It's unbelievable.
It's basically the purpose of the creation.
Yeah.
And it's emphasizing it's not for the neshama itself that it gets higher. That's really the world should get higher.
The work was done already, Hashem. No more Mesirut Nefesh.
Yes.
But
We
you
need
know,
to let.
it was so long ago that the Rebbe said that. Maybe time doesn't mean anything.
Yes, we need the Atmos. We need the highest level. That's it.
But you say we don't have the answers. I think the answer is exactly what we're doing now.
Oh, like to do it, to learn.
I mean, we're doing it. We're all
Right there.
we're working at it because we're all in a state of lack.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm back. It's nice to hear your discussion. That's beautiful. Yes, we definitely are, in a state of lack, at least in our perception. And the beautiful part is that in the end, the Rebbe will, in Ois 9, the Rebbe will discuss a beautiful idea of how we are not in a state of lack, in a real state of.
I think, through this learning, yes, we're in a state of lack, but we can perceive that it's temporary, that it's not a big dark hole. So you have little
Yes.
glimpses of the Sovev, but we go back and forth.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's interesting how the Rebbe talks about how through the avoid of the nefesh elokis in the body, we could rise to a higher perception. But at the same time, the Rebbe is not satisfied with that. The Rebbe says, it's good, great, yeah. Sovev is definitely much better than Mamale. There's no questions about it. But it's not it. Okay, and
if you only have Sovev, then we would have clothes on Nefesh. We wouldn't. It seems like it's the Nefesh HaBahamas that keeps everything down here where it needs to be.
right, and therefore you see, the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh HaBahamas, they really truly live in two separate paradigms. It's like unbelievably different, different levels of operation, and they're opposites. We need koach ha'atzmos truly to make it work. You know what I mean? Like it's they are literally two opposites. One is very yesh, one is very ayin. Although yes, she helps this, very very limited thinking of nefesh Bahamas to realize that there's a great Hashem. But you're right, Nahama. In the end, like that's not the purpose. The purpose is not to be included in ayin. The purpose is to be included in ayin and to be yesh at the same time as a one mitzias. And that's like, how? How is koach ha'atzmos? Because koach ha'atzmos is capable of doing this type of wonders.
In other words, we need to get ourselves into the higher power of the neshama, that it's really higher than the Sovev. We really have to get into Atmos.
Yes. And that's what's interesting. What is he going to talk? Because even the neshama has yiksar loy. She's lacking something. Okay. Although she has so much. And it says that the neshama has power to enliven the whole city. Yeah. But, she's a powerhouse. Enormous amount of powers the neshama has. Now, why is she dafka enlivening only one body at a time? It's because that's what Hashem tells her to do. That this is, I permit you to enliven. And for her to be metamtem herself to this one body is an exceptional pain. That she has to, put herself in this minute cell compared to what she is. Okay, so let's do one more ice and see where we're gonna get. And let's add another explanation here. Al pi masha Maamar b'Maamar. The shnei inyanim, the sov of memalehem, shnei Hashem is the Havaya ve'Elokim. Oh, we added now a new detail, right? So now he's adding Elokim and Havaya, the names of Hashem. Okay, כמובן בכמה מקומות, the Shem Elokim הוא לא רק המגן והנרתק. Shem, as it's explained in many places, and there are many Maamarim that are talking about Havaya and Elokim. It's not only a shield for the sun, okay, Shema limumastir or the Shem Havaya that conceals on the light of Shem Havaya. אלא גם האור לשם הוויה, כמו שנמשך ונצטמצם על ידי שם אלוקים, להיות מקור לנבראים. Right? That not only that it conceals, however, it's actually creates that mamale, I'm sorry, the soivev goes into mamale and creates things. Okay. The bechlalut ha'or mamale, that generally it's the name of mamale, which is called Elokim, right? So mamale and Elokim are the same thing. Okay, right? And what's written in Tanya that the enlivening of the worlds is by the name Havaya. Elokim doesn't have power on its own to create anything. Okay, Havaya lashon mehave. Havaya is from the word of mehave, create. Ella shebeim ha'isavus ha'isa b'shem Havaya atzma haya olam batel b'mitzias. But if only Havaya would create the world, right? Because it's in the state of Ayin, what do you think gonna happen to the world? The world is gonna be nothing. So there would be no world the way we know it. And therefore, in actuality, the creation happened through Elokim. You see the key word here, through the name of Elokim. Okay, so the godly light had to be divided into certain prism, right? That create, not that nullifies. Okay. And we have to see and we see the same relationship in the Soiva Umamalet. The Ikar Achayus ha'olam hu mi'or Havaya. That the main Ikar of the Chayus comes from the Soiva, which is Havaya. But in order that the world will be limited, the channeling of the life force into the world is through Elokim. Okay, there are two things here, and this is very important. That the essence of the life force of the world is Soivev, not Elokim. Ella shebeim haya nimshach bo hachayus mi'asoivev atzmoi lo haya olam mugbal kolkach. Right? But if the chayus would come from the Soivev, the world wouldn't be so limited. And there's going to be equality in all the Nivraim. Al derech mavor b'Tanya, right? The way it's explained in Tanya. The be'im isavus olam haisa b'shem havaya atzmo lo haya bo hitchalkos zman u'makom. If it's going to be through the names of Havaya, we wouldn't have an idea of time and space. Right? Can you imagine? All what we know is time and space, right? So it's going to be a very interesting, very strange world, right? It wouldn't be the world the way we know now. That through the life force of the soivev that comes through the mamale, and this is the key word here, that's enclosed in the nivra, in accordance to his properties. They become a division. They become separate. Okay? And there's one more detail. The gamma chayus the oilam, bahagbola beitchalkos nimshach me'ora memale, hu lo mitzad atzmo ela mitzad hasevev. So, and although now it's in a way like Hashem was kind of, forced to use Shem Elokim, the name of Elokim, but nevertheless, who stands behind Elokim is Soivev. So you see, in a way, Shem Elokim is it's a seeming separation. Okay, if we just take off the cover of Shem Elokim, we will see Havaya there. Who is actually doing is Shem Havaya.
So it's like the memale kalul basoivev. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay.
That's what we say in Shema. We say Shema Yisrael, Havaya Elokeinu, Havaya Echad. Havaya is Elokim. We
And
make the yichud. This is the yichud, meaning there's no itchalkos. It all comes from through Havaya and through Elokim. Okay, but that's what the whole yichud of Shema of the world is of the name of Hashem. Okay, the thing is, Maamar. The mamala hu dugmas chayus hanefesh. So now he's going to give us like a little example. It's like a life force in our body. Hamitpashet beguf b'soiva dugmas chayus hanefesh atzma. Okay, so mamala, it's how the life force is being spread out throughout our whole entire body. Okay, and soivev is like the life force itself. You see the difference? There's a life force, which is soivev, and then the way it's ran by the body. That's mamale. Okay, so now, what is being ran through the body? The chayus, the main chayus, right? Without the chayus, nothing to run through the body. Yeah, meaning mamale doesn't have existence separate than Havaya. It's the same light, basically. It's just one comes in a more symptom than the other. But Elokim can't do anything on its own. There's a Havaya behind it. Okay? Right? Nefesh Atzma. And so now the life force of the soul is Chai Be'etzim. Is alive on its own. Right? It's a self-sustained life. Okay, ועל פי המבואר במקום אחר, זה שהחייס המתפשט, מהנפש, מחייס הגוף, right? The fact that the life force that's being spread out from the nefesh aligns the body. Shuhu dovuk b'hanefesh is because it's connected to the soul itself. Why? Because hu chai be'etzem. It's something is actually could be live on its own. It's hard for us because we don't have experience of self-sustained life force. Any mechanism that we are aware in this world is contingent on another mechanism. You understand? Like we are unaware of any existence that exists on its own, that lives on its own. It's chai be'etzem. We have no idea about this. Okay, therefore it becomes like a more philosophical thing. But truly, we ourselves right now, as all of us are here in this room, how many of us? It's 11 of us, right, in the room. We are enlivened by our soul. That's enlivened by Hashem. Okay, it's happening right now. And that soul is Chai Ba'etzem. It's a self-sustained soul. Right? From its own. Right? That the hispashtus from itself, this hispashtus doesn't have an ability on its own to create. It creates only because it's connected to the essence. ulefi shu davuk b'hanefesh. The fact that this life force is able to create because it's connected with the nefesh. It's chai ba'atzem. V'yesh lomar, v'kmo kein hu be'inyan de mamala v'sevev. The same thing we could apply to mamala and sevev. Shakoyach, שבאור ממלא המתפשט החייס לחייסס הנברואים הוא מצד עצמי, הוא לא מצד עצמי, אלא מפני שהוא דבק בסבב. The Havaya, okay, is the life force. The Elohim is able to give life to limbs and everything else, what's going on there, to all the creations, is because it's connected to the Sevev, which is Chai B'etzem. The Sevev is Chai B'etzem. ועל פי זה יש לבאר, מה שכתוב במאמר וובליל בסעיף ד', דבחינס הסבב הוא נקרא חי החיים, או חי העולמים. Right? That the Sevev is called Chayei HaChaim, is a life of all life force. Okay, and it's called Chai Olamim, Patach, with a Patach. Remember we spoke about Chai Olamim? יש לומר ששני השמות, חיי החיים וחיי עולמים, מורים על שני עניינים. That they teach about two things. וזה שנקרא חיי החיים, right? It's a life force of life. ולפי שממנו נמשך החייס דממלא. It's because from him comes the chayos of the mamala. וזה שנקרא חיי עולמים, and that's the fact that it's called חיי עולמים, that is a life for the world. ולפי שממנו נמשך הכוח that from him comes the power to power of the mamale to give life force to the world. Interesting, the Rebbe makes a very interesting connection that the fact that the chayus that spreads out, that manifests to enliven the body, from this, we see that it's a self-sustaining life. Why? How do we see that? Because when chas v'shalom, that life force is stopped, what ends up happening? The body stops existing. Right? Meaning there is no that flow. So that flow, what he's saying, is the indicator of that it's Chai B'etzem. So what he's doing is that Elohim now is not hiding Hashem, hiding Havaya. Elohim is actually revealing Havaya. He's talking about, you see, this is life, this exists. It exists because there's a greater existence out there. Not that it hides, but it reveals now. Meaning, like, if a messenger of a king comes to you, obviously there's a king. That's the same idea, right? Because he's only a messenger of a king. He represents a king, meaning when I see a messenger of the king, although I don't see a king, but it tells me that there's a king. So the same thing is with Havaya and Elohim. The fact that we see a world, a live world here, okay, that's so organized and so structured, which is beyond our comprehension. That itself teaches us about the essence, about this, Chayei HaChaim. Okay.
Sorry, Mila.
Yeah.
Can you explain the difference between, I'm sorry, maybe you went over it and I was somewhere else in my mind. Again, the Chayei HaChaim, the difference between Chayei HaChaim and Chai Olamim.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm making you repeat something you said already.
No. Okay, the Mamala was Sevev. Meaning, like, okay, let's read. Okay, Chai B'etzem, right? We established that, the nefesh, right? And Sevev, it's Chai B'etzem. Okay, V'al pi ze yesh levayer ma shekatuv b'Maamar, right? The bechina Sevev hanikra Chayei HaChaim. The Sevev is called Chayei HaChaim, or Chai Olamim, right? Chai with Patach. Shloimar, the Shnei Hashemus, Chaya Chayim, B'chai Olamim, Morim al Shnei Inyanim. They're teaching us about two things. Chaya Chayim hu lefi shemimenu nimshach hachayus de mamale. Right? The Chaya Chayim, it's from where the chayus of mamale comes down. Meaning within the Sevevs, there's two aspects. One is Chaya Chayim, and then there's a Chay Olamim. Right? Chaya Chayim is from where the life force of Mamala comes into the world. Okay.
And Chai Olamim?
Yes. ויש להוסיף לזה שהחיוס המתפשט לחיוס es הגוף ומתגלה בניה חי בעצם. Now, one second. לבחינס הסובב נקרא חיי החיים וחי עולמים בפתח, ויש לומר לשני השמש, חיי החיים וחי עולמים מורים על שני עניינים. זה שנקרא חיי החיים, הוא לפי שממנו נמשך חיוס דממלא. Okay, וזה שנקרא חי עולמים, הוא לפי שממנו נמשך כוס ובחינס ומלאכס. Okay, so here we go. One is from Chaya Chayim, is from where Mamala comes in. And Chai Olamim is the life force that creates the world. Chaya Chayim is the soivev that from where Mamala comes in, but it doesn't create the world yet. And then once it starts creating the world, it's already Chai Olamim, is the life force of the world, becomes. But his main point here is very interesting. He says, but all this are indicators of a greater life force that stands behind it. So interestingly, for me specifically, it's amazing is that instead of focusing on the hitchalkus, right, on divisions, you focus on the life force behind it. The fact that I see an alive person in front of me is an indicator that there's a God in the world. You understand what I mean? The fact that we have Nivroim, indicator of the Boire, of the Creator. Okay. Right? And through this, we see that the kavana, the fact that the Sevev is called Chaya Chaim. Okay, why is it? The Chayos, okay, V'amahus v'etzem shel HaChayim mamalu Sevev, is to indicate, what does this mean? Chayei HaChayim is a life of all life. What is it? Why he has to say this? That means that all life that comes after has its original life. What it means? Chayei HaChayim. Okay, it's the fact that we're focusing on Chayei HaChayim, meaning on the Chayim that shows the meaning, which is the Mamala, that shows that there's a Soiv preceding it. Okay. And there is to say that through the two things, that through the two things that are included, and this to say that through these two things, which is Achayas HaMalubash Ba'olam, right, that the life force which is included in the world, Shebegilui hu Chayus Mugbal, that in the Gilui is the limited life force. Shebepnimius hu Bilti Mugbal, that in the Pnimius he's not limited. Okay, so this is basically what is he saying, that Mamale comes as a limited light, as a limited life force, right? We all know our limitations. But the pnimius is built in mugbal. In the pnimius is built in mugbal. It's not limited. Why? Because what's bepnimius enlivens this mamale is seva. Shalachein beyecholtoi lihiyos lahaweses and yivraim. Okay? Because in his ability, he's able to create the Nivraim canal. Veishnam dugmas shnei inyanim ele b'ha'olam. And through this, we see there's two dugmas in our world. The bechitzonius, right? In the chitzonius, achayus sheha'olam tzarich elav hu rag chayus mitzumtzum umu'at. That in the chitzonius, what the world really needs is a very, very limited and metzumtzum light. V'gilui hasovev, and the revelation of the sovev, hu bichlal ashiras. And the revelation of the sovev goes into the category of the ashiras, right? That's the bechitzonius. Ubepnimius ha'olam, and in the inner aspect of the world, nirgish ha'pnimius shel hachayus shavai. We feel the pnimius of the chayus that's in it. And that the fact that he has the power to create, and why in the world the mamala has the power to create is because it's connected to the chai ba'etzem. And through the level of the chol nafshecha, the neshamis, of the neshamis, midgale hapnimius of the olam, and the fact of the darga b'chol nafshecha of the neshamis, right? We are able to see the pnimius of the world. Okay, so the Rebbe here pretty much merges this whole idea of the animal aspect, the animal soul, which is mamale, and the sovev, which is the nefesh elokis, right? And through this darga of b'chol nafshecha, we are able to see the pnimius of the world. Why? Because nefesh elokis pretty much forces, I don't want to use the word forces, but creates a situations where the nefesh bahamis had to let go of its perception. And through allowing that process to happen, okay, she's able to see what's behind the scenes, the greater way of thinking, the greater way of relating to the world, okay, which are beyond her capacity. And a Jew is able to do that because we're not made up only of nefesh bahamis. We also have nefesh elokis. Okay? Okay. Right? And through this, we also see that even the world is now, if it's going on a plane of the sovev, so it's also, has a lack of revelation of the sovev. You understand how he brings it to? Because truly, it's not two things operating separately. It's not nefesh elokis and nefesh bahamis separately, having their own world, they have nothing to do with each other. And no, Hashem puts them together. Hashem puts together sovev and mamale. He just established that truly what creates mamale is sovev. Okay? What's truly affecting the nefesh bahamis is a nefesh elokis. So these two things, we're establishing the foundation that's truly b'pnimius. Okay, the world is sustained by mamale. So before that, we said asher darko b'chach is no longer applicable to this, because before we said no, I'm sorry, asher darko b'chach, you're not shaykh to this. Well, what do you mean when I'm not shaykh to this? My whole existence was sovev. What do you mean I'm not shaykh to this? You understand? So what he's trying to say is that it's not black and white. It's not like, okay, the world is operating on, mamale mode, therefore there's no shaykhus to sovev. You cannot say that. Because who was mamale? Mamale, b'pnimius had sovev behind it. So you cannot say that they have no shaykhus to each other. Well, they're one and the same thing. Okay, so now why is the Rebbe establishing it? Is that it's truly creating a paradigm and then breaking it. And this is the beauty of actually studying the Maamar B'Pnimius. Why? Because it's not just me telling you a story. You have to go through the process and see within the text how the Rebbe does it. Rebbe establishes ground, meaning establishes a structure, and then he breaks it. And it's done for a reason. Because on Nefesh HaBahamas, that's exactly how it works. We like to establish structures. And then you know what? We're going to show that the structure is no longer existence, no longer applicable. That the rules, our mind is used to operating on certain rules. Who created those rules? We created our own rules. We call them logic. And we think that that's how things should be. Why? Because they're logical. And within the Torah, there's a great deal and space for this logic to exist. But guess what? Who created that logic? The logic is not a thing on its own, right? So that this is a system that was created. There was a creator of that system. Okay. And there's always a different way of looking at the same thing. So before we had an opportunity to look how Daimich Sarai is beautifully fell into Memalikul Almin and beautifully fell into B'chol Lavavcha and the Nefesh HaBahamas and Metzias and Yesh and all that stuff. Okay, so we created that structure, that establishment. But then the Rebbe comes and says, well, let me surprise you. Behind that establishment, there's actually a new reality, which is called Sovev. Well, it's not really new reality because that's what always there. That was the B'Pnimis Einyanim. This was, the inner paradigm. And now you want to tell me that the level number one has no shaykhs to level number two. Asher lo darchei b'chach. It's not so. You can't really apply it. Well, it's very much darchei b'chach because if that's what was the life force standing behind and enlivening it, it's one and the same thing. You understand how the Rebbe gets you there? So in a way, the Rebbe answers the questions through the back door. So we can no longer say that Mamale has no shaykhs to save. For sure he has shaykhs to save. That's one and the same thing. Havaya and Elokim are one. Okay? Because B'Pnimius, the fact, and this is the fascinating thing that the Rebbe is saying, the fact that you see the messenger, he didn't say that, but the fact that we see the messenger, we know of the king. So the fact that we see an alive human being on a street, okay, including ourselves, is the fact that there's of existence of God. And B'ezrat Hashem, the next time it seems that we should be able to finish the Maamar. We're going to do the Ches and the Tes. The Tes is an exceptionally powerful piece. It's going to be after Yom Kippur, right? It's going to be the Sunday right after the Yom Kippur.
Yeah, on the side.
Yeah, and yeah, so we should be done with the Maamar by then. And
are there tapes? Can we listen to this? Where do we get that?
Sure, I posted on a group.
Oh, okay, thank you.
The recording, yeah. Yeah, I posted on a group. And yeah, so I guess we could kind of conclude of today's piece. What the Rebbe was telling us is that Havayel and Elokim are ultimately one. Elokim doesn't have Metzias on its own to create anything. Okay, and therefore the limitations that we established on Elokim are truly not limitations. And this is only B'chitzonius, right? But Pnimius, there is, therefore, but Pnimius, we there's no these limitations, and they are the It's a revelation. Elohim is not concealing, but it's actually revealing Havaya. It's an indicator that there's a greater thing out there.
I think this is what the Rambam tells us. And if you want to understand the creator, you just observe and look at the creation.
Yeah, it is. It says, you know, that how do we know the truth of the existence of God? It's not that, oh, you know, the world is truly existing and, you know, we are doubting about Hashem's existence. It's the opposite. It's the fact that the world exists indicates the existence of God.
But I
The
think that
world is the proof of the existence of God.
there are many people in the world that stop there. You know, they worship Elohim or the nature. And the thing is, how does one remove the barrier to not see that?
That's an excellent, amazing. But you know what? I think an awareness is number one step. An awareness, right? Before we looked at that thing, whatever that thing may be, as a Matthias, right? Whatever that is, anything. I don't know. For me, just like Hamas. It's a Matthias, you know? Matthias that openly promotes, you know, the opposition to God and its people. Right? But it's nothing. If you think about it, who is Hamas? It's nothing. It doesn't exist on its own.
Mhm.
You know, and
I
the minute
also-
we look at anything this way, it has no power. This one has no power. That guy has no power. This person has no power. We're only bringing the hamshacha. You know, anything in Elohim has hamshacha from Havaya. So nothing has a Matthias on its own. There's no separate Matthias exists in the world. Nobody has a separate Matthias in this world. Because the ultimate Matthias is Hashem. So that's, you know, when we look through this, because we know that this is the reality, this is what the Maamar is talking about. So we automatically, the edge, you know, of everything else what's going on is off. You know what I mean? Like it's, oh, we don't understand how, we don't perceive it yet, but we are aware of it. I think it's already half of the remedy there.
So I
So my
think
tefillah is different. My tefillah is not that I'm lacking. I'm not even an awareness. My tefillah is open my eyes to see a true reality.
And then what? Once you do see the true reality.
Then you're not going to have any questions. Then
Does
you're
it
in a
make
different...
things any easier when you do see true reality?
For sure, because that's where transformation comes. Transformation is when things and they go turn upside down. That's it.
I think
this
the
thing is no
result
longer
is
it's not yet, it's the helper. You understand? So that's it. There's a bittul of negativity. There's a bittul because it doesn't exist. It truly does not exist. It doesn't have a true existence. It exists because the observer is a different observer. You observe reality differently.
It's still very irritating, like right now what Hezbollah is doing and all that. It's, even though there's a different existence, it's still not comfortable.
Oh, for sure it's not comfortable, but then you know that it's not existing on its own. For sure it's not comfortable because we are looking...
whoever is creating it, whatever is creating it, how do we deal with that? Whatever is giving koiches to Hezbollah, how do we deal with that?
First of all, we need to realize that he doesn't have any koiches. Okay, and I think if enough people realize that, it's just going to be nullification.
Let's talk about the creator of Hezbollah. How do we deal with the creator of Hezbollah, not Hezbollah itself?
You see, evil is there to make us realize some things. If we're able to realize it without an evil, there will be no evil. Right? It's known about even the Yetzer Hara. You know, it's like a king who wants to try out his son, and he sends him a slut. Okay. So the evil doesn't have Metzias on its own. It does not. I mean, if you read the story about the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, you see how Hashem was like, you know, they couldn't destroy the Beis Hamikdash. You read, there's a very interesting, the Jerusalem of old. I was reading it before Tisha B'Av. Hashem created these things. Hashem allowed them to go, and it says in the Malachim brought in the fire, and they couldn't put the Beis Hamikdash into fire. The Malachim, it's a whole Gemaras, you know, it's based on like real sources. And you read all this and you're like, what's going on here? You know? So it's not evil out there that's trying to get us. We're not Christians to believe that evil exists outside of God and a God fights evil. That's a Christian belief. In Jewish belief, everything is under full control of God. You see something in the world, work it out with God. It has nothing to do with these people. These people have absolutely no freedom of choice. As Goyim, they have no freedom of choice. Absolutely. So what do you think, you know, with the Rebbe guiding the Israeli officials? Okay, just to go in and conquer and establish your borders without owning anybody an apology. Right? This is a certain level of reality of a Jew that Hashem wants us to be in. And if we're not embracing that, it's going to continue. So it has nothing to do with them. They are doing their job of us to step into our powers and say what we need to say and do what we need to do.
Mila, I just want to make a quick comment. Actually, like if there is a commentary like on the Siddur of the Alter Rebbe about the 3 different levels. So there is the level of the Jew, then there is like the lowest level is like the nations of the world, but there is a second level of the Tzaddikim Ba'olam. And those are like the non-Jews whose nefesh is actually composed of Kilipa Noga, and those do have free will. I just want to kind of like put that out there because it's not homogeneous. It's very heterogeneous actually. Okay, so for example, like Yitro, Yov, and you know, like the Yitro actually became Jewish, so he had a Jewish neshama, but Yov, etc., etc. So those are like the righteous of the world,
these are,
and they do have, and they are going to be part of like they're going to be part of
because they have a neshama, they just don't have that revealed. So they consider to be Jewish already.
No. I'm talking about the ones that are not Jewish, that they are tzaddikim ba'olam. Those are the people who are not destined to be Jewish, but they are going to be part of like olam haba, and they are righteous.
Right, but I'm talking about evil. Right.
I just wanted to make that difference. Yeah.
No, good that you're making that, you know, that clarity. But I'm talking, we specifically talking about the evil, right? So the evil doesn't have a freedom of choice. They really don't.
Right.
They are, you know, they are there to bring something out of it. So now I guess it's by us to realize that we would need to change internally one way or the other. What do I mean one way or the other? Either we are embracing you know, our powers and stepping into them and acting that way, okay, to the world without, you know, owning an apology to anybody. And because it's also breaking a paradigm. Because as Jews, we constantly being oppressed, we constantly being suppressed, we constantly being persecuted. So we constantly have to be quiet. We constantly have to be pleasing the nations. It became our paradigm historically. You know, we have to be, you know, subdued. So now all of a sudden we have to change it. You know, when we are approaching a Geula, it feels exceptionally uncomfortable. We became so intimately connected with that paradigm that now all of a sudden we have to stand up and say, no, we're going to fight everybody. We are the powerful nation of Hashem. You understand? It's like, well, who's going to support you? Which government is going to support? It's very difficult. We see that how difficult it is for Eretz Israel to really establish that. And so the evil is going to be there all until we will do what we need to do internally. So once we do that also ourselves internally. So if this is being projected on such a global, if this is what's being projected on such a global way in Eretz Israel, this little war that we are fighting within, that's being projected there, we all connected. It's not just them in Israel fighting that. We inside have the same dynamic. So when we fix that within ourselves, this dynamic of where is this, unworthiness, where is this stepping into my own powers and, being bold and being myself, that's obviously will have the, the ultimate, resolution in Eretz Israel. And moreover, the Rebbe, for example, mentions about these three nations of Keni, Knizi, and Kadmoni, and Avodah Samoichin, and these things that through us doing our work of Avodah Samoichin internally, we are securing and expanding borders of Eretz Israel. A person might think like, what this has to do one with the other? Well, because if we're looking through the prism back to the Maamar of Shem Elokim, that's Hitchalkos, everything is divided, we don't see the unity behind ourselves. We really don't. How am I connected to you? How you're connected to me? How all this whole thing is, it just doesn't make sense. Right? But truly we are connected. We are like one body. So can you imagine my one hand says, oh, what's my connection with my left hand? What do you mean, what's your connection? It's just one body. And the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Lamed Beis that we are one body as Yidden. We're one, whether we want it or not. This is just a fact. So, so by strengthening one part of the body, has an effect automatically over another part of the body. This is just how things work in the body. It's one. So, that's what globally. That's how, to me, helps understand the Maamar and the message of the Maamar, that truly the Soivev is what's beneath Elokim, is what's beneath Mamalet. And Mamalet doesn't have any power on its own.
I'd like to ask you, working with the Midos, is Memale like taking a certain Midah and really using it appropriately? So how do we work with the Soivev? I'm trying to understand
I'll tell you what it is. I don't really have a great knowledge on how to work on Midas, simply because when I first was introduced to Chassidus Chabad, I was right away introduced to this, Avodah Samoichin thing. And it's truly phenomenal, because the Rebbe says that Avodah Midas is done. We don't need to do this anymore. Okay, that through us doing our Avodah Samoichin, which is expanding our awareness of God, our midas are automatically gonna shape up, and it's amazing, because that's just what it is. I don't see that many cruel people out there in the world if they have a profound experience of godliness. You can't, because like all the midas are coming from our perceptions. When we change our perceptions of the world, when we change, because we are more aware of God, there's no room for midas that need tikkun. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're dealing with makor, you're dealing with a source of midas, and therefore you don't need to work now on individual midas. In Golos, we had to do this because we didn't have access to the source. So we had to establish this little islands that will provide us support on how to perform mitzvahs properly. Okay, and therefore we needed to work on Amidas. And there are many programs out there to work on Amidas, but I'm just not aware of them. If you want to go that route, you know, I really.
I'm asking about something else. I heard this concept of us being created and us creating, meaning that we are being like, so when a meat all of a sudden lands on you, that and you're feeling it very, very strong, and it's not necessarily, it could be a huge gvura, and but
Yeah, Tippy, you're breaking up. I don't know if it's for everybody, but I couldn't hear much.
realizing owning it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't able to hear much, Tippy, what you were saying. You were breaking up along the way.
Okay, I was listening to Rabbi Notik, and he was saying how we are being created, and then there's a koyach that we create, meaning taking from what we, the midas that we are given, and bringing it into our reality. So, like, let's say, when a person feels tremendous gvura out of nowhere, it's usually not their feeling. It's not like usually who they are, but they're feeling this huge gvura, and knowing like how to use it. And then all of a sudden, you all of a sudden seeing weird things happening in Israel, and so like knowing how to take that and working with that, like.
Right.
Did you understand?
No, I understand what you're saying, but it's I really wouldn't know how to do it. So, because, you know, I personally work through a different model on my things. Right. So maybe it's you know, you could ask Rabbi Notik about how to do it. Because if he's providing a specific model, he probably will be able to provide guidance on how to implement that model.
Amila, I just wanna
He's
thank
no
you so-
longer. He's not in our world anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know who that is. So
Mila, just quickly, I just wanted to thank you so much, because for the whole Rosh Hashanah, I was davening like, please, Hashem, just open my eyes, open my eyes. I know everything, open my eyes. So I just want to thank you for that perspective. It really changes like the way that you perceive things. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is like already like very plenty and very good, and we just have to, you know, be able to see it.
Right. I mean, it's gonna get even more interesting. Yeah, it's unbelievable. This Maamar is literally like it's a huge paradigm shift. B'ezrat Hashem.
Right.
Next time, we're gonna be learning the when the Rebbe actually gives all the answers to the questions, and it's really beautiful.
When are we meeting next?
Next Sunday. It's gonna be right after Yom Kippur.
Oh my gosh, so special. Okay, that's great. We're gonna be very pure. Please God, like be able to receive all of that information.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mila, could you repost the recording? I just went through and I wasn't able to see it.
Yeah, because I see you just recently joined. I'm posting it on this.
Got it.
Yeah. The Kito
Okay.
Hasidus is primarily reserved for Sharia Chut study. So we have this group for all, you know, miscellaneous Hasidus that we come up with. So the Addicted to God is, you know, our original group that you know, I created. It has a very strange name to it.
It's beautiful.
Wait, is there a second group that is there two WhatsApp groups or just one?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, Renata, we with my chavrusa Neria,
okay.
Yeah, we opened another group that we study only Shara Yichud and only post there goes.
Wanted to wish everybody Gmar Chasima Tova.
Yeah, Gemar Chasima Tova.
We'll see you, Bezos Hashem.
Sure, thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, you were saying?
Yeah. So, and Addicted to God is usually for all the rest of the Chassidus. We post.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Sarah. Thank
Can
you.
Can I
Gemar
just
Chasima
throw
Tova.
out a thought that I had over this, and we don't have to answer it. So the Rebbe has said, open up your eyes, and you could look at a hologram and you see what that is. But when I was listening
What's
to
hologram, Anachama?
Hmm?
What's hologram?
A hologram is, they have it in Circle magazine. You could stare at a kind of picture, and if you stare long enough and you focus, and you see something else. And
Oh, that's very interesting.
So I was thinking.